You are listening to the Morning Breath Podcast. Please enjoy today's show, hosted by Pastors Matt and Jessica Stallbaum.
Hey, welcome to Morning Breath, your drive time devotion, sure to jumpstart your day. I'm Matt, and this is Jessica. What's up?
Hi. Jump started. I feel jump started.
Boom.
Do you?
Uh-huh.
Good. I hope you do too. If you're
fired up, ready to go.
Ready to go. It is Monday, March 15th. Halfway through March 2021. Crazy. It's flying. We are in Proverbs 25 today, and it's been so fun to be in Proverbs and be discussing it. Usually we have Proverbs on the weekend as a chapter you read on your own, and we've been doing it together, so it's been great.
It's been really good.
We've also been doing questions, surprise questions to you, questions that I know, and this question...
Before we do questions, got them.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what the show is. So we read our Bibles. We're in Proverbs chapter 25 today, and we talk about it, we pray about it, we read it, and then we just share our Bible devotions with you live on the air. And this show on Mondays is recorded on video as well as on 91.5 FM, WMIE, as well as podcasts on Apple and everywhere else that you can get your podcast at. So that's what Morning Breath is. And we have a lot of fun, and we make things very personal, okay?
Very personal. Like we talked about our favorite music genre, and it was a very riveting conversation last week. Mm-hmm. So if you want to know what my favorite music genre is, you have to listen to last week.
Yeah.
And you can find all our old episodes at eccc.us or YouTube. You can search East Coast Christian Center, and you'll find the Morning Breath by the day.
That's right. But if you want to ask a question, you're going to have to friend request Jessica on Facebook, which she is threatening to rage quit every other day.
No, just... comment on our YouTube page because I may not have
I'm
Facebook
not going to
tomorrow.
rage quit Facebook. I don't agree with everything on Facebook, but I don't have to agree with everything to use this as a tool to reach people. I don't agree with everything on the radio. I don't agree with everything on TV. I don't agree with everything on podcasts, but I will use this medium to reach people for Jesus. Come on.
And I will today, but maybe not tomorrow. And it's my privilege.
Did you rage quit yet?
Nope, not yet.
Okay, just checking.
But then, me with technology, and it will take so much time, plus all my pictures on there. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the question for today is from Ashley Thompson.
Boom.
Who's a super talented piano player at our church.
Keyboard, piano, incredible.
We love you, Ashley. Thank you for she actually did several good questions. The question for today is, who of us, you and I, is the better cook, and what do you like to make?
Awkward silence.
I will answer first so that you don't appear to be throwing me under the bus. Matt is the better cook, and he cooks all things well.
No, not all things.
In particular, actually, you probably don't bake well.
No, I'm not a baker.
This is two different questions, cooking and baking. Matt is the better cook, and he grills really well. And grilling is actually an art. Like, you can be a really bad griller very easily, right? Like, overcook everything. To be a good griller, it really takes work. Yeah. And you are such a good griller. And it's the one thing that I refuse to learn because I'm like, I don't know how to grill. Sorry.
So when it comes down to cooking, like, you cook way more than me, and you cook really good. You don't like cooking, though.
Right.
You're just
because we have to survive.
You make the recipe, you move on.
Yep.
Like, I love cooking. When I cook, I'm like invested in every ingredient.
More of this. Let's do more of this.
I've watched thousands of cooking shows. Yeah. I actually like it.
Yeah.
I like researching when I grill. I mean, I'm into a new reverse sear for the steak. So I reverse sear it in the oven at 200 degrees. I get it to 120, rest for 10 minutes. Put some oil on the steak, get the cast iron up to 700 degrees, okay, and then 45 seconds on each side gets you up to a perfect 135-degree medium rare temperature. Plus, I dry salt it for 6 hours.
And it tastes better than any steak I've ever had in my whole life.
Well, I will say I've had a couple, like at restaurants, that I'm like, man, this is really good. I wonder how they did it.
You figure it out.
And go work on it. But yeah, it tends to be good. I'm a good cook, and I like cooking.
Yep.
And I think when you're passionate about something, you're going to execute well. But I don't like to cook like every day.
So I make scrambled eggs, and they taste one way, and he makes scrambled eggs, and they taste amazing.
But I only make them like once a year.
Right. So I'm like, once a year I get awesome scrambled eggs. No, you're a really good cook. And baking, I enjoy. And I'm pretty good at baking.
Yeah.
Because I can follow directions. Like, I don't
You are
understand
really
how people...
good at baking.
I don't understand how people are bad at baking. It's
I'm horrible at baking.
But why? Like, follow the directions.
Because I don't like following directions.
That's why.
Because I'm like,
literally
I think I should put more flour. This doesn't make sense.
Like, you know
it's
what I
wrong.
make really well? Rice. Like, why do you have to buy a
I'm
rice?
terrible at rice.
Because you don't follow the directions, and you're like, I don't think it should be that long. I think
you
it should
have
be
to do
long.
this?
Yes, like that's the way you make good rice.
I'm like, I can maybe make it al dente. You
No.
know, like wrong.
I have never
burn the bottom and scrape it off and eat the burnt parts. That's
No.
that's a Puerto Rican thing. It's delicious, but every time I try that, it's just burnt.
So there's this thing called a rice cooker that people buy, and I don't understand. Like,
you make
why do you
incredible
need a special
bread,
thing to make rice?
like the best bread I've ever had in my
I do
life.
make homemade sourdough bread.
And again, that's
baking.
Like when it comes to cooking, yes, me, but baking, you obliterate me in baking. Like I've tried to bake one thing one time, and it was an absolute disaster.
What was that?
It was like a crumble, like a fruit crumble of some kind, like a berry crumble.
I feel like I remember this.
And it was horrendous.
So gross.
And it's just, I can't follow
Tasted
directions.
like flour.
Yeah, like flour and salt, poison.
So thanks, Ashley, for that question. Now you know. All right, we are in Proverbs 25, and I'm going to read through 15.
All right,
You're going to start at 16.
Yep.
And this is the right chat. I'm like, 2 weeks ago or whenever I did the wrong chapter, so I'm a little nervous. Okay, Proverbs 25. These are also the Proverbs of Solomon, which the men of Hezekiah, king of Judah, copied. It is the glory of God to conceal a matter, but the glory of kings to search out a matter. As the heavens for height and the earth for depth, so the hearts and minds of kings are unsearchable. Take away the dross from the silver, and there comes out the pure metal for a vessel for the silversmith to shape. Take away the wicked from before the king, and his throne will be established in righteousness. Do not be boastfully ambitious and claim honor in the presence of the king, and do not stand in the place of great men, for it is better that it be said to you, come up here, than for you to be placed lower in the presence of the prince whom your eyes have seen. Do not rush out to argue your case before magistrates or judges. Otherwise, what will you do in the end when your case is lost and when your neighbor or opponent humiliates you? Argue your case with your neighbor himself before you go to court. And do not reveal another's secret, or he who hears it will shame you, and the rumor about you and your action in court will have no end. Like apples of gold and settings of silver is a word spoken at the right time. Like an earring of gold and an ornament of fine gold is a wise reprover to an ear that listens and learns. Like the cold of snow brought from the mountains in the time of harvest, so is a faithful messenger to those who send him, for he refreshes the life of his masters. Like clouds and wind without rain is a man who boasts falsely of gifts he does not give. By patience and a calm spirit, a ruler may be persuaded, and a soft and gentle tongue breaks the bone of resistance. Have you found pleasure sweet like honey? Eat only as much as you need. Otherwise, being filled excessively, you vomit it. Verse 17.
Is that me?
Yeah.
Seldom set foot in your neighbor's house, lest he become wary of you and hate you. A man who bears false witness against his neighbor is like a club, a sword, and a sharp arrow. Confidence in an unfaithful man in time of trouble is like a bad tooth and a foot out of joint, like one who takes away a garment in cold weather, and like vinegar on soda is one who sings songs to a heavy heart. If your enemy is hungry, give him bread to eat. If he is thirsty, give him water to drink. For so you will heap coals of fire on his head, and the Lord will reward you. The north wind brings forth rain, and a backbiting tongue an angry countenance. It is better to dwell in the corner of a housetop than a house shared with a contentious woman. As cold water to a weary soul, so is good news from a far country. A righteous man who falters before the wicked is like murky spring and a polluted well. It is not good to eat much honey, so to seek one's own glory is not glory. Whoever has no rule over his spirit is like a city broken down without walls. Amen.
Amen. So you ummed at a verse that I wrote down, so I'm going to start there. It was verse 11. Like apples of gold and settings of silver is a word spoken at the right time. And I just thought of recently, I had a day where I was just feeling really oppressed and under attack, and I just told a friend reached out to me. It was a big day for us, and she knew what was going on in our lives, and she reached out to me to see how I was doing. And I said, and I thought about saying this, and then I was like, I shouldn't say this. And then I just said it, and I texted her, and I said, I feel like there's a target on my back. Like, I feel just like the enemy is against me and attacking me, and like I just feel like this spirit of heaviness, like a target is on my back. 2 minutes later, I get a call from my friend, and we don't ever really talk on the phone. We just text, and she goes, this is really weird, but I had a dream, and I want to share it with you, and I prayed about it, and I feel like I have the interpretation for it, whatever. Long story short, the dream was basically, the end of the dream was God has your back.
That's awesome.
And 2 minutes earlier, I had told someone that I felt like I had a target on my back. And 2 minutes later, I get a call from a friend, a word spoken at due time. Like, I can't even make this stuff up. And she says, the bottom line of my dream, 3 times in my dream, God confirmed to me that he has your back. And she's like, I don't know if this means anything to you. I'm like, it kind of means like everything to me right now. And I've thought about it so many times since then. God has my back. So that is a word spoken in due season.
Yeah, because I've just literally had so many people, just when I say so many, let's just say 7 or 8 people text me or call me or come up to me and just say, I was praying and God put you on my heart. And, you know, if I'm being honest, my headspace last week was really rough. Like, I was really struggling. And just even Sunday, someone said, you know, I just felt like I needed to pray for you all week. And I was like, what? And this is not like a person who would say this to me to, you know, like, try to get something out of me. They don't need nothing from me. Like, they don't like, that's not the type of person. And there are people like that, that's just like, can I pray for you, brother? Like, I'm so proud of you. Those, you know, you're just like, are you? Get away from me. You're just like, you know, there's people like that. You get this weird sense. But, and I'm just like, thank you. And then I said, what did you pray for me about? And they told me. I was like, I needed that. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And just like people just kind of coming out of the woodworks, just knowing God knows that I need it. Because here's the thing, when your headspace is off, like, it's hard to hear things correctly because you're sitting there beating yourself up. You're just, the Bible says a man who isolates himself rages against wise judgment. So you're in this weird zone and you need other people to like grab you and shake you and be like, hey, yeah, you're going to be okay. Mm-hmm. It's okay. Like, calm down. You know, it's okay, right? Like, I have to tell my dog sometimes so he doesn't pee himself all over the house. Be like, Denver, it's okay. Denver, you know, because like left to his own little emotions, he'll just,
oh gosh, he's so emotional.
He'll just start whizzing, you know what I'm saying? Because when he thinks he's in trouble, he like collapses into like a ball of worthless garbage. You know, he does. And like we have to clean everything because he'll just let.
And he's not even in trouble. He just thinks he's in trouble.
He just thinks he's in trouble. Like that was the worst time ever. He just thought he was in trouble.
Yeah,
and he just wasn't. And like we're like,
he was so used to being in trouble. Yeah, because he was so bad for so long. And then he turned a corner, and now he's like, he needs to renew his mind. Yeah. I tell him all the time, like, you are a sinner, Denver. You need Jesus.
He is crazy stubborn, and to the point where it's like, you want to let him outside to go to the bathroom, and he doesn't want to. He'll walk slower.
Oh my gosh!
Like as he steps, it's like it's not even a saunter. It's like he steps, but like pushes away from each step, like. But here's the thing, like we can talk about our dog, but honestly, like we're the same way. We're so stubborn sometimes, and like, you know, I can get just like broody and just pouty and you know,
like preach.
You got me.
Just kidding.
You got me.
You know what is so cool, and I think it's cool that you've been encouraged and that I was encouraged. And you could be listening and you're like, that never happens to me. Like, I never get a word spoken in due season to me. Well,
that's probably not actually true. You say that because you've forgotten the times where people have encouraged
That's
you.
True. But also, I think that
this is going to be important. I know what you're going to say.
Need to be conduits of this truth. Mm-hmm. And we need to give words to people in due season. And I know both of us do that regularly. And once you do that, that will be sewn back into you.
Yep.
You know, like I've had dreams about people and prayed about them and just maybe didn't tell them the whole dream and whatever. Not really skilled in interpretation, but it makes me pray for them. And then I say, hey, I've been praying for you. And that means a lot to people. Like that can be a word in due season is I prayed for you. Whoa. Then you realize like how humbling to know that God put you on someone else's heart and then they took time out of their day to pray for you. Like it's huge. So I just wrote that in my notes that I want to continue to be a conduit of that in other people's lives.
Yeah, give that to other people. Like, give grace to people. You want grace, give grace.
Yep.
You want compliments, give compliments.
Yep.
And it's not like a arm twisting thing. It's like when you see somebody doing something good, say something about it.
Say
something, right? Encourage people. That's hard for me to encourage people sometimes because I'm as much as a verbal processor, like with certain things.
You're so internal.
I'm so internal with so many other things, especially when I see something good. I'm like, I think about it, I register it, noted, and then I'm done. Well, now I've tried to train myself to go, hey, you know what? And I'll just share with somebody, like, you're doing an incredible job, and I'll lay it out. I'll just kind of like lay my heart out because my compliments come from my heart, and it's kind of a vulnerability when I say things like that. That's why it's a little bit like reserved with those things. Is I'm becoming vulnerable as I compliment.
You had to learn that with me because I am a words of affirmation person. If you know anything about the 5 love languages, words of affirmation is by far my number one. I need words of affirmation. And so I would, like when we first got married, I'd be like, tell me I'm pretty. Like I would just help him along. Do you remember that? I still have to do that
like
sometimes.
last week?
Probably last week. Yeah. Like, am I pretty today? You know, like, and I don't look at that as me being needy. I look at that as me not expecting something from him doesn't come natural to him that I know I need. Because I could sit over here and be like, in my own mind, or tell my friends, he never tells me I'm pretty. Like instead, I'm just going to say, hey, I need this, and you're not doing great at telling me, and so tell me.
Yeah, and you get into love languages. I naturally, with Jessica, when I see that she's pretty, I naturally want to touch her. Like and it's just like, even just, and I'm talking about like an arm on the shoulder, like touch her hair, like that's me expressing that I love her, right? And it's just natural for me. It's not as natural to go, wow, you look really pretty. Your hair is awesome. It's super straight. But it still looks good when it's not super straight. You finally did your hair, like whatever.
Know,
like,
right?
you just like start falling apart, like trying to compliment somebody. People do that to
Sweating.
me all the time. All the time. People compliment me, and by the end of it, it is not a compliment. They're like,
no.
Matt, you're such a great preacher. You're so good. I remember 2 years ago, and I could just hear. They're like,
see it swirling.
And, like, I wasn't listening good, but you were horrible back then, but now you're really great. You've really grown. And I'm just like,
thank you.
Thanks. And I want to be like, no, you've really grown. Get out of my face.
You want to like save them from themselves
Yeah.
too. Like as they're stopping, like just stop. Just stop. Just walk away.
Yeah.
This has never happened. Okay. Let's go to another verse. I think that verse 20 is really good. Like one who takes off a garment in cold weather, or like a reactive, useless mixture of vinegar on soda, is he who thoughtlessly sings joyful songs to a heavy heart. And I just boiled that all down. I love the imagery of all of this. Like think about vinegar on soda and how it literally, like, you ever done one of those volcanoes when you're a kid?
Mm-hmm. Baking soda?
Yeah, baking soda and vinegar. And it just like, it's useless because it just evaporates. And it all comes down to EQ, which stands for emotional quotient. And I think that emotional intelligence as well is another word for it. And just reading the room. Like people have just got to get good at reading the room. Like you come into a place and you just, what is the atmosphere here? Test the temperature. Like it's important how we respond to people. People are grieving. We need to not come in joyfully singing songs. Like it almost seems duh, but it needs to be said. And a kind of funny, not funny example of this was one of the pastors at our church lost a really good friend. And it's Pastor Christian, and he lost a really good friend, and he's our youth pastor at our Vieira campus. And so one of the leaders got a card for him, and it was a condolence card. And they gave it to all the teens to sign it for Pastor Christian. And it was almost like the game of telephone, because this card then was filled with, it was supposed to be a condolence card, but some of the kids didn't know that. And so they wrote happy birthday. They wrote congratulations. They wrote happy Valentine's Day, because it was near Valentine's. One person wrote, thanks for being a good person. Like, Pastor Christian was cracking up about it because he thought it was so sweet. But it was just like, this is exactly what it is. Like, this is supposed to be a condolence card, and you're writing happy Valentine's Day.
Oh my gosh.
You know, like, let's just be aware of where people are at.
Oh
That was a good
my
example.
gosh. You know, I thought of something funny because I can see like our television monitor, and I was like, I can't sit up on this couch. Like, literally, I'm just like this. And when you're sitting, I'm like, how are you sitting up so straight? We look the same size. Like, if you look at the camera,
Yeah.
we look the same size.
I know.
And here's what I thought about, and I'm just for fun. Here, put this behind my back. Okay, we're gonna get ready. You're gonna have to watch this one to see it. It's all about perspective, okay? When we have our own perspective, let's get in here. The vast difference. Like,
You're so tall.
my shoulders are about 6 inches wider than yours. I'm about 8 inches taller than you. You know, I'm not a small person. I'm actually a pretty big person. But
Yeah.
when I was deep way down like this, the camera angle and everything made it look like we're similar sizes.
Yeah.
Because the perspective of the video camera, plus I don't have something behind my back. I noticed you did. I'm like, how did you do that? And so I just want to use that example. If you're watching, the shift of perspective, when you get God's perspective on something, when you get someone else's perspective from the outside, a lot of times we're measuring our life in nanoseconds. And we're not looking at our life. We're not looking at the life ahead. You know, we're not looking at the life of whatever, faithfulness and, you know, all these things.
We're not looking at it in whole, but in part. Is that what you're saying?
We're looking at like this microscopic part of our life. And God's looking at your life as a whole. And he looks at, he made you and he formed you before you were actually in your mother's womb. He knew you. Like, then he formed you in your mother's womb. And he put purpose on your life before you were born, in your mother's womb. Like, before you did anything right, before you did anything wrong, before you went through that thing or you didn't go through that thing. God put that purpose on your life. And just thinking about perspective, how sometimes we need perspective shift. The Word of God is a perspective shifter for us.
That's good.
A word fitly spoken, even a rebuke to an obedient ear is a great perspective changer.
Yep.
I don't mind a rebuke now and then. Like, it's like, man, cut that out, dude. You know, I remember just speaking with a pastor who was like, he's kind of a mentor and a person who pours into me, and we're sitting there talking, and I was like, yeah, we've been considering this as an option to maybe go forward with a potential thing, right? Possibly, just considering the options. He goes, that's not how you talk. He goes, you don't talk like that. You say, hey, this is the right way to go. Let's go. Got to be confident. Got to be bold. And I'm like,
Okay.
I was like, are you sure? You know, I'm like, and he's like, because I'm that person. I'm like, but are you sure? You know, like, and I was like, well, what about this or that? And he's like, look, you gotta go for it as a leader. You gotta lead well. You gotta swing for the fences, and it's okay. You're gonna miss now and then, but you gotta be bold and you gotta go for it.
Yep.
I'm like, wow, that was a rebuke that I needed. I needed that encouragement.
Yeah.
I needed that from a great leader who saw value in me, but saw me not leading like a leader, leading like someone who wasn't confident, someone who was looking for affirmation in what I was saying.
Yeah.
Versus just being confident with the Lord saying, let's go.
Yeah. Verse 25 says, like cold water to a thirsty soul, so is good news from a distant land. And I said, this is one thing I actually like about social media, because I saw...
Good news from the distant lands?
Yeah, because I saw a friend who lives in Las Vegas who has a church, and they started it 5 years ago, and they did this huge celebration for their 5-year anniversary. And they had big 5 balloons, and they were just celebrating. And it made... I saw this on like February 16th, and it made me stop and realize that we never celebrated our 9-year anniversary at our Vieira campus. We have churches all over Brevard County, 2 locations in Merritt Island, 1 in Cocoa, 1 in Vieira. And Vieira, we planted that church in a movie theater. It's now in Vieira High School. 9 years ago on February 12th, 2012. And we had let February 12th go by, and we celebrated last year. It was so funny when we celebrated our 8-year. I told the story about Adeline not knowing the letter 8 or number 8. And you were like, 8 is great and it has 2 circles. And like it helped her know it. And someone came up to me on Sunday and was like, I remember celebrating 8 years because I remember the story about Adeline. 8 is great and it has 2 circles. And so anyway, seeing her news about celebrating 5 years made me think we need to celebrate. We had a great celebration on February 28th at our Vieira campus. We were on cloud 9 because it's been 9 years, and we are super excited for year 10. Hopefully we're going to be celebrating that in a building. Do you think?
I think so.
I think so too. Yeah. Because we have land. We have land.
And we're about to start building.
Yeah. So we're hoping it's done by February 12th, 2022. And we'll celebrate 10 years there. Right? We're excited. Thank you guys for joining us. We love hanging out with you. And thank you so much for the question again, Ashley. And if you have a question you want to hear us answer, then comment on our YouTube video, any of them, and someone will see it and we'll answer it. All right? Have a great day.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of the Morning Breath podcast. If you did, we would love for you to give it a thumbs up and share it with a friend. To follow along with our daily chapter list and for quick access to East Coast podcasts, events, and more, download the East Coast app. It's the best way to stay connected with everything East Coast. We would also love for you to join our online community. Just search for East Coast Christian Center on Facebook and Instagram. Thanks again for listening to the Morning Breath podcast.